1 minute ago, the United Kingdom has just entered uncharted waters. What unfolded inside the private quarters of Kensington Palace at exactly 11:43 a.m. yesterday wasn't just a disagreement, but it was a constitutional detonation. Senior royal aides are already calling this the most dangerous moment for the British monarchy since the abdication crisis of 1936, and it all comes down to a single devastating letter. Prince William, the Prince of Wales, has done the unthinkable. For the first time in living memory, the heir to the throne has looked the elected Prime Minister of Great Britain straight in the eye and said, no, not maybe, not we will take it under advisement, just a cold, hard, non-negotiable refusal. And the consequences of this decision are currently shattering the fragile balance that has kept Britain stable for nearly 3 centuries. If you are watching this, pay close attention, because the mainstream media is terrified to tell you the full truth about what is happening in London right now. They want you to believe this is business as usual. It is not. The government is panic-stricken, the markets are reacting violently, and Keir Starmer is fighting for his political life. If you want to see how this royal showdown ends, hit subscribe right now, because what I am about to reveal will shake you to your core. Here is the trigger for this constitutional earthquake. 4 days ago, Prime Minister Starmer personally requested an urgent private meeting with Prince William. His message was blunt, bordering on arrogant. The Labour government needs immediate royal backing for its controversial new housing reform bill. A bill that would grant the state unprecedented powers to seize unused land, including protected Crown Estate property, to build affordable housing. Starmer's calculation was simple: force the future king to endorse the policy or paint the monarchy as out-of-touch enemies of the poor. Leaked details from Starmer's initial request were chilling. He reportedly wrote, "The monarchy must demonstrate its absolute commitment to solving modern Britain's housing crisis or face immediate questions about its continued relevance in the 21st century." It was a threat. It was an ultimatum. Starmer thought he could bully the palace into submission. He thought William would fold to protect his image, but he was wrong. Dead wrong. William refused to play along. He flatly rejected the meeting. There was no negotiating, no middle ground. Instead, he sent a reply, delivered by hand through his private secretary, a response containing exactly 23 words that have just ended Starmer's authority over the crown. Those 23 words didn't just reject a meeting, they redrew the battle lines of British democracy. And when that letter landed on the Prime Minister's desk, the reaction inside number 10 was described by witnesses as volcanic. But before we get to the shouting matches and the panic in Downing Street, you need to understand exactly what William said and why legal experts say it is the most brilliant trap ever set by a royal. Here is the text that has Westminster shaking. William's response wasn't a long legal document. It was a sniper shot. The message read: "The Prince of Wales respectfully declines to involve the Crown in active political advocacy, as such involvement would fundamentally undermine constitutional precedent and the monarchy's impartial position." Count them, 23 words, but do not let the polite language fool you. This was a declaration of war. By using the phrase active political advocacy, William was accusing the Prime Minister of trying to weaponise the royal family for partisan gain. He wasn't just saying no, he was exposing Starmer's request as unconstitutional. He flipped the trap. Instead of William looking out of touch, Starmer now looked like a power-hungry politician trying to break 3 centuries of carefully upheld royal neutrality. The response from Downing Street was instant and furious. According to senior sources deep inside number 10, Starmer's reaction when he read that note was volcanic. Witnesses described the Prime Minister pacing his office at 2:17 p.m, face flushed red, voice rising with every sentence. The calm forensic lawyer facade dropped completely. He thinks he can simply say no to the elected government of this nation. One junior minister, trembling outside the door, heard him yell, "William forgets Parliament makes kings, not the other way around." And it gets worse. Much worse. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner, who was present in the room, later told close allies it was the angriest she had ever seen him. 2 cabinet members confirmed that Starmer slammed his fist on the mahogany desk. a breach of decorum almost unheard of in that office, and declared, "If William wants to play constitutional games, I'll remind him who actually runs this country. The Crown exists at Parliament's pleasure, not the reverse." The room reportedly fell into a terrified silence. One aide admitted later, "I have never heard a British Prime Minister speak about the royals with such open contempt. It was the sound of a man who is used to getting his way, suddenly realising he had hit a wall he couldn't bully down." But Starmer didn't just get angry. He got vindictive. Within just 3 hours of that shouting match, Downing Street operatives leaked a twisted version of the story to The Guardian, clearly trying to pressure the palace into submission through the press. That decision would prove catastrophic, because while Starmer was playing political chess in his heated office, he forgot about the real victims of this crisis. He forgot about the men and women sleeping on the coal pavement just a few miles away. While Downing Street operatives were busy leaking stories to smear the future king, British veterans, men and women who served honourably in the Falklands, Iraq and Afghanistan, were shivering on the concrete streets of London. This is the reality that Starmer ignores, but Prince William sees all too clearly. Let me introduce you to John Patterson. John is a 71-year-old former Royal Marine from Portsmouth. He currently lives in a damp, torn tent under the arches of Waterloo Bridge. He served this nation for 22 years. He survived 3 combat deployments. He watched friends die for the Union Jack. And today, John Patterson lives on £89 a week in universal credit, forcing him to choose between a warm meal or a dry pair of socks. When our field reporter spoke to him yesterday, tears welled up in this hardened soldier's eyes. He said, "I fought for this country. I bled for it. Now my country acts like I don't exist. They have money for everything else, but nothing for us." And he is right, because while men like John freeze in the biting cold, the government has just approved a staggering £4.2 million renovation for a new parliamentary tea room. You heard that correctly. They're £4.2 million. We are talking about heated marble floors, Italian leather seating imported specifically for MP comfort, crystal chandeliers shipped from Austria. It is an orgy of spending in the middle of a cost of living crisis, but it gets even more obscene. Documents obtained by the Daily Telegraph reveal a sickening detail hidden inside the very housing bill Starmer wanted Prince William to endorse. If William had signed that letter, he would have been supporting a bill that quietly cuts veteran housing support by £340 million over the next 3 years. The money redirected to what the bill defines as priority demographic groups. Mary Phillips, a 64-year-old former army nurse from Leeds, has waited 14 months for social housing while raising her disabled grandson. "They told me I wasn't enough of a priority," she says in a video now viewed 1.8 million times. "But they want Prince William to say this is fair?" The contrast is so disgusting, so morally bankrupt that it makes your blood boil. Starmer is dragging the monarchy into political battles to cover up his own betrayal of the people who fought for Britain. He wanted the prince's face on a bill that abandons veterans. And when the public realised this hypocrisy, the mood in the country shifted from confusion to pure, unadulterated rage. And then came the intervention nobody expected. The public was angry, yes, but in the corridors of power, everyone assumed King Charles, a man who has spent his entire life waiting in the wings, practising the art of silence, would stay out of the fight. They assumed he would let the politicians handle it. They were wrong. At yesterday's emergency Privy Council meeting, King Charles III broke 70 years of strict royal protocol. He delivered what historians are already calling the sharpest, most humiliating rebuke ever issued to a sitting Prime Minister by a monarch. According to 3 separate sources present in the room, the King did not shout. He did not raise his voice. He was calm, firm, and absolutely terrifying. Addressing the gathered ministers, he declared that the Prince of Wales had acted with perfect constitutional correctness. He emphasised with a steely gaze fixed directly on Starmer that the Crown must remain above politics and that any attempt to coerce the institution into partisan advocacy was a grave error of judgment. Insiders say the atmosphere in the room turned glacial instantly. You could hear a pin drop. Charles made it unmistakable. William has his full support and Starmer has miscalculated badly. He effectively warned the entire cabinet that anyone pressuring his son would be ignoring centuries of precedent. Starmer reportedly sat in stunned silence, his face drained of colour. He had tried to isolate William, thinking the king would be too weak or too focused on his health to intervene. Instead, he found himself facing a united royal front. But if the political fallout was bad, the economic fallout was catastrophic. It hit like an earthquake. Markets hate uncertainty, and a government openly declaring war on the monarchy is the ultimate form of instability. Within hours of the news leaking from the Privy Council, the pound sterling plunged 1.7% against the dollar. It was a bloodbath. Global markets reacted instantly to Britain's constitutional meltdown. More than £23 billion was erased from the FTSE 100 in a single trading day. Think about that number, £23 billion of wealth vaporised because of one man's ego. Currency traders from Hong Kong to New York began describing Britain as facing sovereign risk. Language normally reserved for collapsing states or banana republics, not a G7 nation. Goldman Sachs immediately downgraded the UK's stability outlook. 3 major pension funds froze new investments in British equities until the crisis is resolved. The message from the City of London was clear: stop this war or we will crash the economy. But while the bankers panicked, something even more powerful was happening on the streets and screens of ordinary citizens. While the bankers in the city were freezing assets, the British public was igniting a firestorm that no spin doctor could extinguish. It started online. The hashtag #DefendWilliam didn't just trend. It dominated the global conversation for 16 straight hours, reaching a staggering 47 million impressions. But here is the detail that terrified government strategists. Usually these viral moments are driven by international bots or foreign interests. Not this time. Data analysis revealed that 82% of those posts came from inside Britain. These weren't bots. These were ordinary citizens. Nurses, truck drivers, teachers. People who rarely post about politics, creating accounts just to defend their future king. And then the digital anger spilled onto the streets. It wasn't just a London bubble phenomenon. Protests erupted nationwide in Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds and Glasgow. Thousands of people flooded the city centres. They weren't holding complex political manifestos. They were holding handmade signs with a simple, devastating message. Parliament serves Britain, not itself. Hands off our royal family. In Newcastle, the scene was breathtaking. An estimated 12,000 people marched from the city centre, chanting a slogan that will haunt Keir Starmer. In his sleep, William stands for us. By 6 p.m, the verdict was in. A YouGov poll was released, and the numbers were nothing short of a political massacre. Public approval for Prince William soared to 81%, the highest rating for any royal since the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. The public viewed his refusal not as rebellion, but as integrity. On the flip side, Starmer's approval collapsed. He dropped to 31%, plummeting 14 points in just 4 days. That is a free fall. That is the statistical definition of a leader losing his mandate. A massive 76% of Britain surveyed said the Prime Minister was wrong to pressure the monarchy into political advocacy. But here is the statistic that signals the end of this government. 68% of Labour's own voters said they disapproved of Starmer's approach. Even his own base is turning on him. In Labour strongholds like Liverpool, internal polling shows support for the party fell 19 points in a single Wednesday night. This wasn't just a political blunder anymore. It was a full-blown electoral disaster unfolding in real time. The people had chosen sides and they didn't choose the politicians. And inside number 10, the atmosphere shifted from anger to pure panic. The pressure cooker was about to explode while the public raged outside. The real danger to Starmer was growing from within. Inside number 10, the atmosphere now resembles a pressure cooker ready to explode. Ministers are holding emergency meetings behind closed doors.